The other energy type I was thinking about was hydro in the Last of Us games.
Yes. Also reality. Yeah, continue. There are water
No.
wheels. Continue. In the virtual world, tell us about your experiences.
But we're talking about movies and TV shows and video games. And now, like, what the fuck? What do you want me to cite a real post-apocalypse example?
Is there one of those? Oh yeah, so Last of Us. There's something about water wheels in that game.
Okay, so no, actually, it's not a.
It's a water wheel simulator.
So in Last of Us 1, I have not played Last of Us 2. Last of Us 1, you get to this place where there's this band of people, and they're running a hydroelectric dam.
Damn.
And yeah, exactly. And they're running it, and they're getting power and powering their little settlement right there. And I thought that was always ridiculous. I don't think dams are just something you can just like on and then power's flowing. I think it requires enormous amount of maintenance. But the idea is there. You could grab energy from the river. If you have the know-how to run a modern hydroelectric power plant, then of course that's what you do. But I think more realistically, water wheel.
So I went down this rabbit hole on YouTube, rabbit hole about like homesteading people. And so there's one guy, he built his house he bought a huge plot of land that had a hill and a spring on top. He built his house down at the bottom, and from the top he dug a hole to make a well and then had the water run down the hill. So all the way when it's running down the hill, it's gaining kinetic energy just from running downhill. And at the very end, he put a motor. But if you drive a motor backwards, it's a dynamo. And so then from the rotation of the water pushing it, he charges his whole house. Mm-hmm. So he has free electrical energy off grid, totally continuous, sustainable, no pumping problems. So like it's doable. Like it's doable to run like a hydroelectric dam if you're smart about it.
The issue I would say there is what is the catchment area of the water that is running that?
What do you mean the catchment area? Oh yeah, so for him there's no catchment area because he's not like he's damming a river. It's like, and then he needs to like dam a river, build up this wall so that you can collect water, gain potential energy. For him, he's just using the potential energy straight up from where the water is released from his well. That's like, I don't know, 100 feet higher than his house because they bought a property.
It's coming from a well.
Yes, a little spring that comes out. It's not a well that like you have to pump. It's a fresh water spring. Just water's coming out of the ground from whatever pressure it's on the ground.
I think that's super fantastic. The only issue I find with that is how you're going to keep that kind of thing secret. Because if people see, oh, look at that guy, his house is a blaze of light,
lit up at night.
I wonder where I'm going to go tomorrow.
Yeah. You're like, weird white PVC pipe running down this hill.
Yeah. How about I just take the house from him?
Charge.
Or even if they're not hostile, they're like, I'm just going to go where that is and build up a settlement. Maybe the aquifer gets depleted.
That's right.
Or the flow rates become low and you can't power it. So maybe that becomes a human problem, which you're back to utilities now. Common resource, how do you share it? We solved this problem with utilities, but not easy if you're in the apocalypse.
I'm just a scientist. I'm not a politician.
God damn it. I'm not an engineer. I'm a doctor.
So we did energy in terms of hydroelectric. We did energy in terms of coal combustion if you happen to find it. What about wood? I mean, actually, even wood, you have to be kind of sparing because you cut down your whole forest around you.
Well, yeah, it depends on. There have been lots of civilizations throughout history, which is kind of post-apocalyptic in a sense that it's not the modern world, and they cut down forests too quickly. I think this is less of an issue in, say, somewhere like the South or the East of the United States, I'm saying.
Dense forestry.
Where there's dense forests and lots of rainfall. So if you cut it down over here, it replenishes within 5 years. It's very fast.
Oh,
in somewhere like the Southwest, California, something like that, you cut down the forest. Yeah, it ain't coming back for a long time. So once it's gone, it's basically a non-renewable resource. I mean, people lived in big population centers historically have been around, rivers, oceans, and in lush areas for this specific reason. Because in the desert, it's hard to survive. You have lots of things that are renewable resources in lush areas are now non-renewable, essentially, in desert areas.
That was one of the most interesting things I found when moving from the West Coast towards the East. Is just like the amount of water that's in cities. Like West Coast, like you just have a city because the land was available. But like on East Coast, like there's a lot more just waterways right next to cities.
I wonder the carrying capacity of some place like California if there's a societal collapse. So the dams aren't being run properly. Irrigation isn't happening. The resource sharing between Northern and Southern California and Arizona and Colorado is not happening.
Oh, that's right.
I think the carrying capacity plummets.
Well, I mean, the LA basin can't support itself with water.
That's right.
Like if those aqueducts are in trouble, like the entire Southern California tanks real fast.
That's right. And then Las Vegas and Phoenix, San Francisco even.
Right, they get it from aqueducts too, I think.
Right, and it's closer than LA, but it's still the same idea. Like if those dams up in the valleys or the mountains aren't being properly run, then they're not going to get their water. And there's no rivers. It's just a tiny little peninsula.
We need to learn how to train beavers to work for us. Actually, maybe that's a really good idea. Figure out what animals would do things that we want them to do and figure out ways to coax them into doing things that are useful for us.
You mean like the ox and the horse?
Ox and the bee? Like, we need bees to pollinate stuff. We give them nice homes.
Oh, cool. You found out like farming animals and raising cattle.
Yeah, we just rediscovered it.
Boom, genius.
Boom!
What a great idea. Let's get animals to work for us. Nobody's ever thought of that.
Okay, I'm gonna form my own post-apocalypse group. You. We're gonna have so much honey, and you're gonna be like, "Oh, sweet." I'm like, "Yeah."
But we're gonna have horses, and we're gonna raid your honey stores.
Yeah, I'm gonna surround my base with honey. Your horse is like, "Ooh, sweet." I'm gonna stop here. Num 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 num, and then I'll slather you with honey, and like an attack, and I'll light on fire.
If you can get your honey resources that in line where you just like, fountains and fire hoses of honey,
Throwing
it's like, okay, you can be my leader.
Sure, yeah.
This is insane.